Now, if you're thinking this story sounds slightly familiar to that of a certain Mr. Tolkien, that's because Tolkien was a huge admirer of Norse mythology, and its influences are quite apparent in his work. The magical ring that brings disaster and misfortune, corrupting those in its possession, is rather similar to the One Ring. Fafnir himself can be compared to several characters. Smaug is a greedy dragon who protects his stolen treasure in a dwarven kingdom, being the slightly more obvious comparison. Fafnir's greed and obsession, which lead to him murdering those around him whom he cares about, is mirrored in Tolkien's Gollum. Every culture seems to have its own spin on what exactly a dragon is. These stories, as well as the overall appearance, have changed over time and differ vastly depending on location. So join me today as we dive into the history of dragons and try to identify the differences and similarities between these mercurial monsters. As we've seen today, dragons throughout the ages have changed dramatically, and not just in appearance but also in their character. A greedy, gold-hoarding creature with contempt for everyone around them is a fairly common trope in modern fantasy. You can find stories where dragons are noble creatures, protectors and guardians as they were in the past. However, these stories aren't as common. Dragons in medieval Europe were the creature or monster of choice. Some of this influence came from Christianity, and some of it came from the Greeks and Romans. These stories followed a similar pattern: the knight in shining armor who saves the damsel in distress, or even the entire town which had been plagued by said dragon. The towering multiple-headed serpents the Greeks and Romans spoke about began to look more like lizards or dinosaurs with 4 legs and bat-like wings. One theory is that these images were just drawn incorrectly in early medieval bestiaries, and honestly it's not even that much of a stretch. In Korea, dragons are fairly similar to their Chinese counterparts, however they are known to have a much larger beard. In Egyptian mythology, there is the giant serpent Apep, who resides in the underworld. Apep was the embodiment of chaos, the serpent of the Nile, or the evil dragon, the greatest enemy of Ra. Every day there would be a battle between Apep and the god Ra. Given their association with strength and power, dragons were a symbol used by Chinese emperors. One recurring theme amongst the oldest depictions of dragons is their association with bodies of water. Here, dragons were seen as rulers of waterfalls, rivers, and the sea. There are even 4 dragon kings, each representing the 4 seas or major bodies of water in China. They were also thought to control the weather, the dragon king being referred to as the dispenser of rain. The story of St. George and the Dragon begins with a village that is being extorted by a dragon. Every year the dragon demanded a tribute of livestock, otherwise it would destroy the village. Eventually its demands outgrew the village and the supply of livestock was gone.